I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and it is that time of the year, the marathon, the months-long marathon of live coverage of the 2026 Carcassonne Champions League has begun with the international qualifiers over the course of the next 5 weeks. We're going to find out who are going to be the 60 lucky, or rather the skillful people who are going to compete in the main stage of the Carcassonne Champions League, and starting from January 2026. We're going to cover the main stage of the Carcassonne Champions League. So today we have the first round of the third of the 4 international qualifiers. Since I'm starting this stream a little bit late, I'm going to explain you the system a little bit more differently a little bit later. Here you can see all the 16 players that have made it to the qualification 3. The way you make to qualification 3 is by winning a bunch of international competitions earlier in the year, such as the Continental Championships, the World Team Carcassonne Online Championships, and things like this. You can see all of that somewhere here. I'm going to jump in right into the games in a minute or so. You can see the system. It is a normal double elimination system, so each player can afford themselves 1 loss. If you win, you advance to the next round. If you lose, you advance here to the losers bracket. But if you lose twice, then you are eliminated. So the system is pretty straightforward. We're covering 2 interesting matches today, at the very least 2. So Bluste, that's Zvonimir Vlajic of Croatia, who scored 2nd in the Mind Sports Olympiad 2025. We'll be playing against a newer Hong Kong player who was just invited to the team, an expert with a screen name Ernie012. That's Ernie Lai. And then after this, Thomas Rojas Henao, one of the 5 Colombian masters, will be competing against Mauricio Saavedra with a screen name King Mauri, who placed 4th in the Chilean qualifiers. But King Mauri you've actually have seen a couple of weeks ago on stream, but I don't think you've seen Ernie or Thomas relatively recently. Anyway, so as usual, the matches are all best of 3 format. We're going to jump right in, and since this is a relatively spontaneous stream, I'm gonna need to take a couple of minutes to turn on the drawings. But basically what you can see is that Bluste, that Zvonimir, has an expert rating of 554 at the moment, currently being outrated by Ernie012, despite the fact that Bluste's peak rating is higher than Ernie's. You can see a bunch of Bluste's green meeples on the board. Building City is now a 3rd road, and Ernie, with the red meeple color to represent the bright monochrome canvas of Hong Kong, has no meeples on the board but has 6 points on the scoreboard. Now starting a new city and also trying to exert some pressure on the meeple on the left, Bluste with the monastery for 5 points. Good position for green. It looks like some of his meeples are dangerously placed-ish, but not really. Ernie can try and exert some further pressure on one of the city squares or one of the Bluste's road squares. Let's see how he's gonna do that. You could just start build a road on the left, I guess. But whether you go for the top road or for the bottom road, it is not exactly obvious. And the drawings are functioning. So now, nothing to be worried about for the rest of the stream. So, what is Ernie gonna do? I was thinking basically between these 2 moves. Yeah, not that one. I don't like this one. I mean, it makes some sense to kind of put further pressure on this square, but there's still 2 tiles that fit there. And, you know, normally I don't mind restriction like this, because even if you leave as many as 2 tiles for your opponent to draw and complete his feature, well, it is a 25% chance that they are not going to be able to do that. But the issue in this particular situation is that if he gets himself this here tile, green that is, then green will be able to meeple this gigantic road, and it's just a little bit too much. However, Ernie can follow up. Yeah, so now, of course, Ernie wants to score points and put some pressure on this square, although I actually would have gone over here. I think it would have been a little bit better. Bluestay now can do this. What's a brilliant move. Look at this. How many of you would have gone over here and finished this road for 4 points? Because it's such a natural thing to do, and also this meeple feels a little bit under pressure. But Bluestay knows that this here move from Ernie was a part of a two-step plan. The idea was, of course, to go here, and then to go here with a straight line, making sure that green needs the same dagger tile in these two places, in this here square and in this here square. But with this here move, Bluestay has ensured that he needs different tiles in different places. There are still 6 tiles that fit over here, such as a starting tile, and 2 tiles that fit over here, making it overall for over a 60% chance that he will be able to complete this city eventually. And when he does, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 point road is going through this city, and only green can claim it. And the city is going to score 8 points. The road is going to score 10 or 11 points, depending on which tile is being drawn. It's going to score 11 if a rose tile is drawn over here. So this is like a 19-point threat right there, which means that Ernie, although ahead by 5 points on the scoreboard, is a little bit worried about falling behind soon in the future. So Red, of course, drew a monastery for 5 points, which is very nice for them. Red is now trying to build up this here city at the top in a classic fashion, where you kind of ignore this here shared square, which is controlled by your opponent's monasteries, and then you go like here, and then like here. Zvonimir is now trying to block Ernie's monastery unsuccessfully, as this here sensitive square has been filled. There's still 4 remaining curves in the deck to try and do stuff like this. Bluestay now takes a second monastery to control Ernie's monastery over here. Ernie now needs to get himself some more points, either by going over here, which I think is the classical move, waiting for one of the 3 remaining Doritos to fit into this square, or an alternative for Bluestay is to go over here with a city tile and try to actually block this square later. So green now with a city cap. Some interesting options. Yeah, I like this idea. I don't like the orientation of this tile. I would have preferred to point it to the right and try to not invade this city, but block. Yeah, I think it's a subtle imprecision from Zvonimir. This is a move that makes a lot of sense, but one thing actually I don't quite like it is the fact that they are only 2 out of the 4 cows remaining in the deck, which means that if you go over here and invade, then these 2 meeples of yours get stuck for a rather long time. So I think what was better is to turn this city cap the other way, so that you can prioritize not invading, but blocking with one of the 5 remaining straight lines. And there was also an additional benefit, is that if we were to have turned the city cap rightwards, I guess, if you want to say it with one word, then we would not have exposed this here platform for our red opponent to attack and connect. You feel me? So what I would have liked, yeah, is a move with a double purpose. Once we get this insurance for this here square, and second we try and block. But anyway, the outcome for Ernie is actually not that bad. Sorry, for Bluestay is not that bad. Ernie correctly chose to oppose this here meeple, and Bluestay just managed to connect everything. And now it's actually a good position here for the Croatian. Even if the square does not get filled, green is going to have 2 trapped meeples, red is going to have 2 trapped meeples, and this is completely fine. So an even exchange, where Bluestay has more points. This here move by Ernie is honestly, I can't explain why he would do that. It looks like a just gigantic... Oh, I can't. Oh, no, I can. Of course I can. No, Ernie's doing just fine. I'm hallucinating here, guys. Ernie basically realizing that he could just try and gun for the completion of the city, of course. When I was saying that there are 2 meeples trapped for red and 2 meeples trapped for green, of course I meant it, but one of the green's meeples is on the monastery. So this means that this here red guy has 2 meeples on the city, and now red has a 75% chance of drawing a cow and just running away with a 24-point city. So that would be beautiful if that were to occur. And there's nothing that Bluesty can do to stop that. And Bluesty actually just tries to gun for the same type of tile on the left. Like this. And hope to draw a cow off his own and compensate for that city. And he needs to draw that cow soon enough. Look at Ernie's move. Ernie realized the dangerous potential of this here road and helped Bluesty with his city as long as he gets himself to claim this here road. Now, from Bluesty's perspective, it's actually not even obvious if he wants to go here, although I think he does. Maybe not right now, but like a little bit later. Also, you don't meeple this city cap. It looks a little bit too dangerous, but whatevs. So Ernie finishes the monastery, starts a new one. Great position for the newcomer from Hong Kong. All right, the game is continuing with some natural moves. Bluesty is actually building up both of his opponent's monasteries and trying to protect his city cap. I'm getting distracted here for a little second. Hi Bladesmack, hi Helgam. Of course, since it's gonna take me like some half hour to properly warm up with my commentary, just let me know in the chat if you see something that I'm not seeing. Well, one thing that I am seeing is that Bluesty drew the first out of the 2 cow tiles and actually managed to finish his city, which is a fantastic opportunity for him. Ernie here was playing so well, but this is the first really true mistake of the game. Yeah, the issue that I have with this here move is that it is kind of a waste of a good tile, and it's also continues... He's building up the wrong monastery, basically. This tile should have gone over here. Because the problem here is now he needs to spend a city plus road tile, which are in relatively short supply, on completing this here square. But whatever, it's not going to be a game decisive or anything. Ernie gets himself the first farming rights. The field has already 3 completed cities on it, 3 more completed cities potentially to come. Bluesty is probably going to invade that farm at some point, and actually I like Green's position now much more. Bluesty now with an unblockable 50-50 invasion through this here square, or plenty of invasion options through this here square. Ernie now keeps racking up quick points. Temporarily is ahead on the scoreboard. And Bluesty is now going to get himself another farmer, of course. And with that, Green has overtaken the advantage in this here position. So Ernie, of course, is going to try to go here, take quick points, maybe block the entry of one of these 2 farmers. It is unlikely to work. Both farmers are probably going to make it into the field. And now this game, because of the presence of such a big field over here, this game is going to be more about meeples than it is about points. Ernie has a liability over here. He's going to need to have himself like 4 more tiles before he can have a meeple back. But this is a fantastic tile. He can actually go over here and try and get this meeple back at the very least. Basically, here's what I'm trying to say. So Bluesty now is going to have a majority on the field after he completes this invasion. And Ernie, in order to equalize the field, he's going to need to spend a meeple on it. There's still plenty of platforms to equalize, like you can invade through here, through the top, in either of both sides. Like, the geometrical features of the position are very forgiving. But if you're going to spend a meeple on invading the farm, then you also need to keep another meeple in hand for scoring quick points. And in order to do that, well, the only way how we can build up is over here. And it's going to take some time. Now, if we build up this here meeple, this here monastery, and focus on getting the meeple back before we drop the farmer, Bluestay could even drop a third farmer at some point, or he could maybe start covering up entrances. So the window of opportunity is not going to exist forever. And if Bluestay manages to secure himself a majority on the farm, which is a real possibility, then suddenly, even if we get the last cow and go over here and complete this city, it's probably going to be not enough to win the game, because the field has so many completed cities on it, and it's going to have so many more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 already completed cities. That's 21 points. The city is going to be worth 24 points when completed, but it's also going to provide 3 additional points for the farm, so the value of the city is going to be completely equivalent to the value of the farm. And it is also a big if Ernie even manages to draw this here tile. Yeah, so Ernie now realizes the difficulty of his position and, well, just calmly does what he has to do, is building up this here monastery. Bluestay is working towards covering up some field entrances and a fantastic tile for Ernie. He gets himself 2 meeples back, gives 2 meeples back to his opponent, complete the city for 24 points. The field is now also worth 24 points, but Ernie has 19 points extra on the scoreboard and still 3 meeples to fight for the field. Ernie now, however, needs to make a decision. Do we drop a farmer here right now for 3 points and risk of getting blocked? Do we go here for 6 points and try to invade that way, which is also very interesting? Or do we just calmly take 4 points and drop a farmer later? Some fieldless winning opportunities are still in the cards, potentially. Because if Ernie now just calmly takes 4 points, he's going to be plus 23 on the scoreboard. He's 2 points ahead in this here mini battle, 3 points actually, because he controls a 6-point road against his opponent 3-point city. So that's going to be already plus 26. Then he has this here 6-point monastery, that's plus 32. So if he goes over here and just takes the 4 points and does not think about the farm, he will be ahead 8 points overall with an equal number of meeples. So this is actually a good number of meeples to have. But there are still some tricky possibilities. If Bluestay gets himself the road monastery, that is going to give him some nice opportunities, like for 8 points. If Bluestay now takes the secondary field at the top, that is also going to give him some nice points, but I thought he was supposed to do it in a different way, but whatever. So Bluestay now gets himself 6 points extra, putting himself at -2. Ernie has 2 points extra in a meeple. It's a fantastic position to be in, but it's also quite easy to mess up. Let's say if Bluestay gets a tile over here and over here, he can actually turn this little field into a 12-point field. And then Bluestay is going to be ahead. So what can Ernie do? I think Ernie wants to draw himself the last vanilla city cap tile. 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. There's still 1 of them on the board. And if Ernie just goes here, if Ernie just goes here, then he will allow green a super majority on the farm, but at very least he will make sure that this here guy does not score twice. Ernie decides to bite. Ernie takes a 6-point field, and this is good news for Bluestay. It's not necessarily a bad move, but it gives green some real winning chances. So green should start here by scoring 4 points, and then ideally if green manages to drop another farmer and get a road monastery over here, he's going to end up with a secondary farmer of 12 points, plus the extra quick points that he's going to get from scoring this here city. And I think really at this point, with the road monastery, Bluestay wins a high frequency of the games, if not most of them. So I would say with best play from both sides, there's like a 60% chance of red to win, and maybe 40% chance of Bluestay to win. But it's also the case that this position is a little bit harder to play for red than it is for green. Yeah, so that could become real interesting real quick. So the practical chances are probably somewhere near 50-50. Hi, Elias. Yeah, pointing out the 12-point field. Oh, static noise. Oh, I haven't had that in a while. Yeah, sorry about those guys. Let's try to fix that. All right, now it should be significantly better. Do let me know if that is the case. Bluestead does take the 4 quick points. Wait. Oh, and Ernie takes 8 quick points. Oh, that's fantastic for Ernie. Yeah, with this here dagger, this of course is worth only 5 points for Ernie because he took himself 8, but he gave him 3 points to Bluestead, but 5 points without an investment of a meeple is fantastic, and Bluestead knows what he has to do. He has to gun for the road monastery. He drops a second farmer. Beautiful decision here by Bluestead. It's also very important that he managed to draw the last Vanilla City Cab, which means that the Vanilla City Cab now cannot go over here. And now there's no risk of devaluing these here farmers, right? Because the feature about this here 12-point field at the top is that it scores for this here city and for this here city twice, right? Because this farmer and this farmer are both touching this here city, and same issue with this here city over here. So if Bluestead completes his plan, he's going to have a 15-point field at the top right here because of this here new city cap, and he's still going to have the 24-point field, 27-point field action in this here general area, leaving him with a total of 42 field points. And he's going to score 8 points for the monastery if he gets it. So from Ernie's perspective, now I'm not really sure is there's all that much that he can do. Yes, he can. Ernie can just attack the main field at the bottom. No. He can just go here, right? Why don't we just go here? I think Ernie still sees the potential of a fieldless win. He wants to outrun the field, but I now started doubting if this is possible. Okay, so this here 4-point road is nice. Let's say Bluestead goes here for the monastery. Monastery's 8, which is 1 more than the 7-point monastery over here. So Bluestead's going to have 1 more monastery point comparison to Ernie. He's going to have plus 42 more field points comparison to Ernie. 3 points in this mini battle I talked about earlier. 4 points for this road, so that's like -7. So if Bluestead gets the road monastery, he's going to have 36 points extra compared to Ernie, putting him at 82. Ernie 73. So Ernie's going to be at -9, and Ernie's going to have a meeple. And there is actually no good way to use a meeple. Well, at least you can score 9 points with a meeple. So I believe that a monastery tile here is just winning for Bluestead, right? So 42 for farmers. Yeah, I think the calculation should be correct. Hi, Ian Middleton. Yeah, and we can see what Ernie is doing, but Ernie is not playing this correctly. So see, this is normally like a super nice setup. He gets himself 1 point for the monastery, whatever, and he's also preparing himself to finish the monastery with another monastery. That's beautiful, right? But there is only 1 monastery in the deck, and it happens to be just the monastery that Bluestead needs. If Ernie draws the monastery, then he doesn't need these extra points anyway. He will be just winning because Bluestead is not going to be able to get himself this here nice cash on the setup. So I think that Red now is doing something which is a common mistake that I used to make, and this is overestimating the chances of a fieldless win. Because really now the whole game is just about that road monastery. So either red gets it over here for 7, or blue state gets it over here for... how many more even is that? 14, right? Actually, no. 17. Actually, no. 23. Yikes. So let me try to explain this. So 8 points for the monastery itself. I'm just trying to calculate the impact of that move, right? As blue state is going to decide something with a straight line. And there's really... yeah, that works. That's actually quite... that's a very, very good move for blue state because he's trying to prevent some potential field attacks for Ernie. Oh, Ernie's a great tile. Yeah, Ernie can win this. Ernie now can go over here and drop an insurance farmer, and then he's going to be fine. But he needs to find that move. He needs to not allow blue state to place a monastery over here. That's the big, big issue there. Yep, and he finds it. So which means that blue state should have gone over here instead. He should have disallowed this here opportunity. Ay. Do you see the idea, right? Because it doesn't matter who draws the monastery now, because the little farm at the top is going to be equal. There is a curvy tile for blue state, who cannot do nothing much about this. Yeah. Tricky. Also here, I was thinking that maybe blue state could have gone over here, not allowed red to continue his road. And maybe that's why red chose to go over here, because there was a chance to get this curve and prolong this road by 4 more points, putting red only at -5 in the scenario where green draws the monastery. And then red can score 5 points maybe with a meeple somewhere else, like taking this here ruin for 5 or for 7 with... one or both of these here city tiles. Yeah. Maybe actually Ernie's fieldless win approach yields himself higher dividends than I initially expected. We also have some time trouble issues. For Ernie, who's only going to have 20 seconds, but he only needs to make 1 move, which is not a difficult move to make to begin with. And blue state, I think, is losing regardless of what he does. But let us see. No particular recommendations that I have for the play with the green meeples here. I'll just maybe calculate the points again just to be extra clear. So red has 8 for this here monastery, 4 for this here road, 3 for this here mini battle. That is 15. All the other points are tied. The farms at the top are tied, actually, interestingly. 9 for green, 9 for red. And, of course, green has the 27-point farm over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 9 completed cities on it. Blue state can't really do all that much. Blue state is going to actually get himself the monastery, interestingly. And it's not going to do all that much for him. He's going to score the 8 points, of course, which are very nice. But it's not going to be enough. So blue state should be losing by 7 according to my calculations. Yeah, it doesn't matter exactly where you score. GG saying Blue State, let's see if my calculations are correct. Ernie with this here move for the win. And this means that Blue State actually had a chance. All he needed to do with this here tile, he needed to go over here and block this here farming opportunity for Red. Red anticipating that road Manish is going to be drawn by his opponent, so he places 2 opposing farmers to the green opposing farmers. This is some wonderful space vision from Ernie, and overall I felt like the newer expert from Hong Kong played this one absolutely marvelously. There was one tiny move which I kind of criticized. This was over here, and I still stand by it. It ended up working out well for him, but generally you don't really want to be building your monasteries with city plus road tiles. They're the clunkiest. My calculations were correct. +7 is the victory for Ernie. Yeah, I felt that the Hong Kong expert managed to outplay the Croatian master, which brings us to this here important situation. Remember I told you about how this here tile should have been turned a little bit differently. Had it been turned a little bit differently, this 24-point city for Ernie, the game-winning feature for Ernie, would have been completely avoided. Avoidable and avoided. So again, subtle decisions can have snowball affecting consequences. Let's see if Blue State manages to come back. And being the more experienced player of the two, he will, of course, still have some good chances. But he's not the starting player now, and Ernie already managed to score 4 points with this here city, so he's going to have the statistical advantage here. Blue State, however, with the first monastery of the game, it's very nice controlling Ernie's road. This here city is going to be all right in the end. Ernie now is going to continue his road on the left and start a new city, which is not the only possible move. He could also start a new city over here, which I don't like. I think this is the situation where it is quite difficult to see the best opening move, because all your moves here from Red are ones which don't give you a lot of options, and that's why I'm not surprised that Red goes for the blocking approach, which Blue State should be honestly happy to see, because it does not really work at a high frequency. Ernie now again with a trickier decision, just because all the space that this here green monastery is controlling, he will be forced to just give monastery points for Ernie, for Blue State, regardless what he does. But basically, the move that I think he should have played on the last move was going over here, continuing his road, getting his road out of the control of green, and then meepling this here city and trying to build something like this, something that he actually successfully built next to his monastery in the previous game. But none of that works, and Ernie now is playing a completely different position. Not one which is completely playable, but just a little bit trickier than what you would normally expect. Blue State now gets on the scoreboard, starts a new city, obstruct Ernie's city, but gives back a 3-point road for Red. Ernie gets equalized on the scoreboard as Blue State completes a 4-point city and also makes his own city at the top a little bit more vulnerable. Ernie now with a rather obvious 4-point monastery move. There normally would be other considerations, like I know that some players, like the Portuguese master Afonso Cavaco, really likes playing a low variance game with monasteries, where basically instead of going for a higher point spot in one location, you go for a lower point spot in a different location, just so that it's next to your opponent's monastery, just so that you don't allow stacking opportunities for your opponent. And he does exactly this, but in this position, it is not correct. First of all, because Blue State has some other monastery opportunities of his own, and second, because you just create unnecessary vulnerabilities for your features, because like it's already bad enough that your opponent, that you have a sensitive square over here. Now with this here additional sensitive square, it's not really the kind of game that you want to be playing. Blue State gets himself the monastery cluster regardless, So this here point sacrifice does not appear to be working. And then it looks normally that red is controlling green's monastery, but because red has these here features, what's going to happen is that red is going to build up the monastery for green. Look, green has already 8 points over here, but there's some other interesting things happening. Red continuing his road, threatening to block the square. Blue stays successfully defending and steering the road of red into his own city. Ernie, now with the interestingest decision you can possibly think of. Option 1, we go over here, we finish our road, we help our opponent's city, but we can still reinvade or block it later, and we drop a fantastic farmer. And option 2, we do this. We drop a farmer regardless, which is less fantastic, but we make sure that the city at the top is not blocked. I love the choice of Ernie over here. If not for this here sensitive square, this of course would be a good move, because Blue stays building up his monasteries over here, right? And Blue is going to have an advantage on the scoreboard after he completes said monasteries. So this means 2 things. First of all, 1, we're going to be at this points disadvantage, and 2, we have a meeple advantage whilst our opponent is building up. And so we can use that meeple advantage to develop a stronghold on the field, so that we maybe drop 1, maybe 2 meeples, maybe even in some cases 3 meeples on the field, so that when Blue State complete his monasteries, we have enough points on the field, enough secure points on the field, so that we can compensate the scoring damage from the monasteries. Ernie now needs to make a decision, as Blue State is violently attacking this here meeple, and Ernie chooses to take it easy. Just building up his monastery, and yeah, sure, the meeple here is fine. I would wait for a little bit longer if I were to do something like that. Or maybe actually, if I were red, I would have taking out the city cap at the top. Yeah, I think that was the move, and this is still the move now. Like, Ernie can go over here for the city cap at the top. If Blue State does not get a city tile, we can get himself something like a road Dorito. We can start limiting the square from the top. I think it's a 1-2 punch that red could have possibly missed. Yeah, check this out. We go over here. Blue State gets this curve and does something like this, building up his monasteries. And then we go over here, and then we limit this square. And if we limit this square, we delay the moment when Blue State completes his city at the top. And we have more time to complete this here city securely. Now, Ernie does something similar, except that he's limiting himself this here square a little bit too much. And I fear that Blue State now can go over here and try to create an additional vulnerability. Blue State is now getting ahead on the scoreboard by picking up the only free road available in this position for 3 points. Ernie now with a curve. He could do one of 2 things. He could either go here and try to limit the square, or he could do something like this. Blue State, look at that. Told you. He can continue his city with tempo. Now we have to defend, except that we don't have a good defense. We only have this. Blue State can still draw one of the 4 remaining curves or one of the 4 remaining crossroads to go over here and block. Honestly, it's a rather grim position that we have. We need something like a dagger tile rather urgently. Blue State keeps scoring at the top. Now +7. We have just this exceptional vulnerability. Now we could probably need to go over here or at the top. Yeah, try to block this here guy. Blue State with a straight line does not have nothing much to do. Pretty much a Zugzwang for green. Maybe some sort of waiting move. Maybe we go over here, create a road monastery just for kicks. He does create a different monastery spot, which is honestly a mistake here from Blue State. He already has monastery spots in these here areas. You don't want to be creating another one. Ernie finally gets himself a defense tile. Can breathe a sigh of relief. It fits here perfectly. They're going to still be 1 sausage tile and 2 splitter tiles. Hi, Agatha. I am worried why Ernie is not making this move instantly. Like, these appear to be just 30-second wasted from his clock. Yeah, I've noticed this a lot from some players from Team Hong Kong, that time management is sometimes an issue. Like, I have been criticizing players sometimes for playing too fast. In Ernie's case, there are some moves which you can pretty much play instantly because you can plan for them in advance. Like, of course you're going to go over here. Like, what else are you going to do? If you don't go over here, your opponent draws like a crossroads and just blocks you immediately. But the 30-second thing there was a little bit unnecessary. And later, since he's already behind 4 minutes on the clock, he is risking getting himself into time trouble. In the meantime, Bluesta is building up his monastery successfully. There are still 3 tiles that fit into this square. There are plenty of tiles that fit into this square. Ernie's gonna have something nice from this here city, from this here field expansion potential later. Now Ernie needs to block this here guy. There's still several ways to do that. Or he could just score 2 points, but I think the 2 points are not worth it, because let's say if Bluesta gets himself something like a rose tile, he can defend his city towards a 50-50. He can get still himself the last starting tile for like 14 points. And it is not something that we want to allow at all. But given the fact that Ernie's behind 7 points on the scoreboard, and he's going to be behind even more after the monasteries are completed, I can see how he can be reluctant to make a move like this. Bluesta with a scoring onslaught, 2 more points, setting up a 4-point road would go through his monasteries. Now if green completes this monastery, it's going to be 4 + 9, 13 extra on Bluesta's scoreboard. But now finally a good tile for Ernie. Easy decision, again, easy decision to go over here and try blocking the square. Still, he spends some 10 seconds on this move. Now under 7 minutes on the clock with half of the game left to play. It's going to have a complicated endgame. Now this here tile that Ernie has, now this is where you're supposed to spend a minute, or half a minute at least, because it's a strategic decision. You have 3 legit options. Option 1 is a strategic decision. We go over here, we drop a farmer in our field, we try to use a temporary meeple majority to develop a big field. And if we commit to that strategy with a juicy splitter tile like this, leaving us not 1 but 2 city caps in our field, this is pretty much a now or never situation. And he goes for this. And I like this option, but it wasn't the only option. Option 2 was going over here and try to draw a couple of Dorito tiles to finish a nice looking 18-point city here on the left. And option 3 was to go over here, try to build some cities, and then try to block 2 meeples of Bluesta. So Ernie does get the Dorito, so does Bluesta. Bluesta equalizes the city at the bottom. Ernie does not have 2 productive moves, but I think if we just go here and we try to go for this block regardless, that could work nicely. We pretty much never continue the city on the right because it becomes more vulnerable. We want to wait for a city cap and a city cap only. We also don't spend our last meeple over here trying to attack this. So it seems that this here move, exerting the pressure at the bottom, is exactly what we want to do. He chooses to do so with a different orientation, which is a little bit imprecise, given the large number of road tiles and straight line tiles in particular that are there available for defense. Well, it actually ends up not mattering as Bluesta finishes his monastery regardless. And the problem is that the city is still a threat. Yeah, now with the shielded tile, Ernie chooses to continue his city and make it slightly more vulnerable, but now it is worth it. Completely worth it. Because it's just too many points, and Ernie is 18 behind on the scoreboard. Bluesta still has 2 monasteries, recovered 1 monastery, found himself a new one. Like, how did he know? How did he know when creating this monastery spot at a meeple disadvantage? How did Green know that he was going to be the one to draw the monastery next? Ernie at the very least gets himself something. 4 points on the scoreboard. Every little helps at this stage. Bluesta with 2 points and another monastery completion setup. And now finally, Ernie with a sausage tile. Oh no, not a sausage, but like a split sausage tile. Gets himself 2 cities. And pretty much equalizes the scoreboard with that. He's still going to have the meeple advantage. But Bluster is going to have the first dibs on the leftmost field, which is worth 9 points. Oh, but this is not a great tile for Bluster. He can, of course, score points over here. But Ernie, if Ernie gets a curve, he can secure himself the field over there. And now suddenly the game becomes balanced. I think as Ernie, we have to go for that farm. Don't we? There's several ways of doing it. I like a move like this. Going over here for 6 points. And then leaving a 4-point road over here up for grabs. Given the fact that Grain has 2 curves for himself that he can use in other locations. So it's actually one of those rare situations where it would be beneficial to leave a ring road open for scoring. But one thing which is not great in Ernie's position, now that the game is such where he's going to need to make more difficult decision and he chooses to make this here farming move, which again makes a lot of sense. Oh, look at Bluster. He's now going to try and eat away at this here city from Red. And now Red is going to deal with that here threat. Bluster now has 10 minutes on the clock, which is all the time in the world that you need. Several good options here as Ernie's trying to just simply score more on the right. My candidate moves are 3 moves. 1, we just finished this here monastery and we might even meeple the 5-point road, although that looks excessively greedy. We might do something like this. This was my second candidate move, trying to pre-build the city still with 2 tiles that are left here to complete the city. It's a big threat. Option 3, we could have gone over here. Tried to block this here city completion option, but Bluster figured out that Ernie has still many city caps available in the deck, and then preventing Red from completing that 10-point city was not realistic. Bluster is going to complete the 9-point monastery together with a 2-point road and be ahead 5 points on the scoreboard. Ernie still with a farming advantage and a meeple advantage, and most importantly, Ernie now drew one of the 2 super important tiles that fit into this square. So now one and Dorito tile Ernie only for green to finish this here 16-point city and put the game out of reach. Ernie needs to make a decision here, and again, he does not have a lot of time to do this now that he has a position complex enough where he needs to actually think. He does. Yeah, he chooses to start a blocking tile, but Bluster gets himself the connection tile, one which does not complete his city, but brings it quite close. Ernie now needs to probably block the city, but he needs to count exactly how to do that. And I think I have your answer. The move that we have to play is over here, because there's only 1 starting tile remaining that fits, and we basically just have to hope that we get the starting tile and our opponent doesn't, but he does miscalculate, because he does not have the time to count points. And actually, it's not necessarily miscalculation. There's only 1 dagger left that fits into the square anyway. But the issue that I have with that is now Ernie needs to draw both the starting tile and the dagger tile, if you feel me. Because ideally Ernie wants to have control over what happens to this square, and he wants to have the starting tile for that. And if he were to go over here, then he will just have doubled on needing the starting tile in both places. Now he absolutely needs the dagger, but then if Bluster gets the starting tile, Bluster can maybe threaten the completion of this here city if he so chooses. Maybe there's something over here. Well, at the very least, the 2 split sausage tiles could go there. There's still 2 of those remaining. But Bluestay's idea now is to just try and score points. Ernie with a curve, it's a good tile for him because this means that this here meeple is probably not going to get recovered. Yeah, I believe this is the last curve of the game, so this is very nice. And Ernie has a massive meeple advantage, but he might not have time to capitalize on that meeple advantage because Bluestay's meeples are very well placed. 8-point city over here, 7-point city rather. Let me just retype that. 7 here. 8 here, that's 15. This is a 10-point city, even if it doesn't get completed. This is a 5-point road. So this is 30 points for Bluestay already. This is another 5-point city. So Bluestay is like 40 points ahead, and Ernie has only 4, 6, 12 for the farm. So 22 points. So Ernie is missing 18 points. 18 points he's missing, but he still has 2 meeples to play with. But it is tricky in this position to get as many as 18 points with 2 meeples. I think the way you do that, you just develop your field some more. Try to get a lot of city captain score for those. You could also get the last road monastery. This is quite beneficial for you. You could score here 7 points and expand your leftmost field by bringing this here mini castle into it. Bluestay gets one of the 2 split sausages, chooses not to threaten the completion of the city. He chooses to defend, I think unnecessarily, and Ernie's going to take 6 points, which is huge because now, after this move, Ernie is only going to be behind 12 points. And 2 meeples can be totally enough to compensate the 12 points. Bluestay with a monastery scores 4 points, bringing his advantage to 16. Ernie now needs to get the dagger tile, but he doesn't. He gets a straight line. Not many scoring opportunities with that. What exactly do you do? Do you go for a farm? Do you go for a road? Do you go for nothing? You have to go for something. You have 3 meeples. There are still quite a few quick point tiles remaining in the deck, notably the city caps to be scoring here on the left. So you could go here for 2-point road, or you could go here for a farm right now. You have to do something, but you have only 40 seconds left on the clock, which is why we don't have to think about obvious moves which happened earlier in the game, but enough. With that, 29 seconds for 4 moves. It is almost an impossible ask. Bluestay gets 1 point for his city. Ernie, with a Dorito tile, needs to score something, needs to start a new city on the left in his own field. 20, 19, 18, 17. He leaves it open. Bluestay finishes the city with a dagger tile and wins the game. With that, Ernie wishes he had blocked that towards a starting tile, but Bluestay gets himself a straight line. He still has a lot of time on the clock. He gets himself 3 points, even a chance to attack the farm. Ernie gets himself 4 points for the road. Bluestay with another dagger to score himself 3 points on the left by completing a 6-point city in his opponent's field. And Ernie is going to get the starting tile, which means had Ernie blocked the city differently, he would have won. Of course, there are like some different runouts that would have been possible with that, but one of the other reasons why I didn't like this move is because it gives back a 4-point road to score, which is exactly what Bluestay did. So, yeah, looked like a very nice tile runout, of course, for green, but a preventable loss for red. So I felt like in last game, Bluestay was outplayed by Ernie. Here, Ernie was a little bit outplayed by Bluestay. Yeah, that's a wonderful idea this late in the game, realizing the potential of this here city, and Bluestay just running away with it, managing to both complete the monasteries and this here city and winning by like plus 30. Ernie saying I lose by time, but it's not just time, it is also the position on the board. Well, anyway, Ernie saying, anyway, I lose. Yes, of course, on the position. And Ernie might be sad about this and all our viewers from Hong Kong, but all our neutral viewers should be very happy because this means that we get to see one more game of Carcassonne. Now we're headed into a decider. One Ernie, one Blueste, and now for all the marbles, who's going to advance to the next stage of the international qualifiers and who is going to get relegated to the losers bracket? We're going to find out in 30 minutes or less. And after that, we're going to be jumping right into the second match. Sunny is asking why the splitter is called sausage. Well, technically it isn't called that way. I just, it's just what came to my mind in this particular stream. But, well, it's not the split tile, it's the long sausage tile itself. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think it looks like a sausage-ish, especially when you have two of those in a row. And, well, split sausage is just what happens when you cut a sausage down the middle. Also has like a very nice rough texture to it, like one of those proper vegan breakfast sausages that they have in the United Kingdom. Very, very common, like very, very hard ones and like grainy. Yeah, also nice, we have 3 of them in a row. Beautiful arrangement. Anyway, we need to get to our decider game. Have these guys started yet? And yes, they have. Alright, so Ernie is going to be the starting player, which is good for anybody who's rooting for Hong Kong. But what's good for anybody who's rooting for Croatia is that Blueste gets the first points on the scoreboard. But what's good for Hong Kong is that Red gets himself the first 6-point monastery of the game, very nicely protected towards one of the 4 remaining crossroad tiles to benefit both the monastery and the road. Another monastery spot waiting to happen. Overall, fantastic position for Ernie and a great idea to start a new city in a way which is going to set up another monastery spot. Blueste, however, keeps munching on those scoreboard points. Ernie now needs to find his most aggressive move. No. You don't go over here. What you need to do, you go over here and meeple yet another road to make a road like this for 6 points and continue your city indirectly and try to build it up like this. But it's a move which is very, very not easy to pull the trigger on because you're going to have 3 meeples tied to the square. But what does this... Nah. It's an okay move, but if you want to win in Carcassonne on this high level, okay moves are not enough. Reasonable moves are not enough. It's not enough to not blunder. You need to find the best move every single time. Granted, of course, this is... not the easiest decision, but the city on the left will do. Ernie's going to get himself the 8 points, a meeple back, and he's going to be happy with his decisions. Or maybe he could go be aggressive. He could now go over here, start a new city like this. I wouldn't do that. He could also go over here, which is an option, but I generally like to get myself some meeples back when I'm down to only 2. Yeah, he realized that he might need meeples for other stuff. There's some monastery spots over here happening. Blueste gets himself a tile, which he uses over here, which makes some sense. Now it will be a bit more difficult to build up the city, but this early in the game, not impossible. Ernie can just be patient. Yes, I love that idea. This city at the bottom is absolutely not broken. It can still be completed. There's still plenty of cows to go over here, plenty of Doritos to go over here, plenty of horses to go over here, plenty of Doritos to go over here, and plenty of more Doritos to go over here. Finish the city for 22 points. And Blueste, with the right run out of tiles, will be helpless. So Green anticipates all that. Green knows this city is going to be completed eventually, and he chooses to start a 5-point monastery for compensation. Ernie continues his city in a lovely way. Not quite the way I anticipated, but it can work very, very well. And the idea is that it's very difficult to deal with this threat, and that's why Bluster really doesn't do all that much about it. Because if Bluster invades this city, then red blocks the square, and green loses 2 meeples and red loses only 1. And in addition to this, if you invade this here city through this here square, then sometimes this gets blocked because the quadruple city tile that would normally fit there is already on the board. But then if you don't do nothing about this threat, well, then suddenly Ernie gets a tile over here, Ernie gets a tile over here, and Bluster can only partially block this here square, which will result sometimes to red just running away with this here city. Yeah, Bluster really has some thinking to do. And I love the move that he chose. He's actually protecting the square, which means that he's preparing not a block, but an invasion. However, it's not something for Ernie to be worried about. If I'm Ernie, if I get a Dorito, I still go over here, I create the threat, then Bluster gets a vanilla city cap, invades over here, and gives back another platform for us, for red to invade in this here square and complete the city with a 2 versus 1 majority, just like he did in the first game. So part 1 of the plan happens. Bluster successfully invades over here. That's a very nice setup. 4 tiles that fit into this square. Some inconsequential moves with road tiles have been exchanged with both sides. Ernie's -6 on the scoreboard, but now has another straight line, which is not great. I think we just go over here, try to harass this monastery a little bit. We could also get ourselves 1 point, but this 1 point doesn't really improve the position of this road meeple very much. And there's one other issue that I don't like about that move, but I get it. A point is a point is a point. There are many Carcassonne games that have been decided by 1 point, and this very well could be one of them. Bluster with a scoring tile, presumably wishing for 2 points next to his monastery, and exposing the city cap is a bit of an issue, but he does this anyway. I'm actually kind of shocked. I love this. But it is a very, very risky aggressive move, because with one simple straight line, of which there are only 2 remaining on the board. Maybe that's why Bluster does this. But let's say if Ernie gets one of the 2 straight line tiles, you can go over here and limit this square towards a 50-50, because there would be only 2 daggers, so only 1 dagger remaining to fit into the square, 2 of them being on the board. The 2 daggers of the other kind are also on the board, so only 1 of each dagger is remaining on the scoreboard, and Ernie now starts a 6-point monastery, and I like this, but this is the reason why I did not like this road move, because Ernie is the side with the meeple disadvantage at the time, but Ernie still wants to score monasteries. And if you have a meeple disadvantage, you want the monastery spots on the board to be a little bit more protected, because you want to get your meeples back as quick as possible. Speaking of getting meeples back, Bluster successfully cashes up on his risky play, starts a new city, completes a monastery, 10-point ahead on the scoreboard. Wonderful, wonderful sequence here for Bluster, despite the fact that Ernie managed to cash on his setup early on. But basically, from Red's perspective, because Red didn't have meeples, Red actually does not want this tile over here, because with this tile over here, there is a potential attacking platform against this here square. From Bluster's perspective, it doesn't matter if this tile is over here, because Bluster had more meeples, and if he were to use a monastery on this here square, and if he were to get blocked, Bluster can afford a block or a restriction. It's a subtle moment, but it sometimes decides games. Anyway, Ernie finishes himself a road. Now we have ourselves a nice open, maybe like, not quite a Brazilian style, but maybe a Japanese style position. No imbalances here. The farmer soon going to be equalized. Ernie now gets himself a scoring tile, which can go over here for 4 points, could go over here for 4 points, or maybe could go over here to try and attack this here city. I actually wouldn't mind this too much. Ernie gets himself 4 points. not in his opponent's field. And Blue State now does what? He chooses to finish a shared city, or at least contribute to finishing a shared city, and drop a farmer. I don't like this. I don't like this strategically. It seems that green is spreading his efforts a little bit too thin. So both road monasteries are going to be out. This means that this here field unification through that square is not happening. And green is going to have 2 meeples committed to 2 not so big farmers, which makes them a bit more vulnerable than normal for invasions and takeovers. So Ernie could strategically like keep this farm small, make this farm big, and then use his meeple advantage to bully this here meeple on the left. So as green, what I would have done, I would have either gone over here and built up my own farm and try to drop a second meeple and double down on it because I have a lot of meeples, I can afford this. Or I could do what Ernie's going to do right now, which is go over here and try to gun for a completed cities. There's still 7 Doritos remaining in the deck. It is an amazingly good situation for either player to try and pursue this. Now, Blue State chose not to invade the city. Will Ernie just cash in the 4 quick points, or will he go over here with a content move? Also, by the way, remember this road move earlier? Like, what did that tell you? What did that tell you guys? Blue State now gets a curve, and now he can go over here and block this monastery. Like, this here move, what Ernie had to do, Ernie had to not to prolong his road, and he had to realize that his future monastery was going to get blocked. But Blue State chooses not to block the monastery. He actually chooses to use this tile as an opportunity to invade the road, which I also, it's interesting, but I have some issues with that. Anyway, Ernie gets himself the opportunity to connect to this city. And he's probably going to either go here directly, and he's going to think how to orientate this tile, or going to do this first. It's also fine. I like this. The idea, of course, is that we don't want to allow our opponents some easy platforms for reinvasion, but this brings me back to this move. From Blue State's perspective, given the fact that there's still technically 1 curve remaining, a move that I would prefer is just going over here and keeping one of my meeples to try and re-invade the city. Because look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is so threatening. Ernie's going to now run away with like a 30-pointer, and he's going to win this series. Blue State is now trying to gun for compensation. It's not going to work. I don't like this move by Blue State, because he's thinking, right? He's thinking that he's going to get some compensation and just outscore his opponent. It's not going to work. If this city gets completed, red wins, even if red like tries to lose on purpose, because the city is so many points. It's going to be 30 upon completion. So all Blue State's winning chances rely on Ernie not being able to complete this here city. But it is a very big ask, because there are just so many Doritos remaining. Well, Blue State now, of course, gets himself a Dorito for this here square, and Ernie now going to get himself either a Dorito for this here square, which is what probably I would do, or maybe we go here first, and we try to equalize this here guy. Since we have meeples and our opponent doesn't, maybe it's actually a good idea to go here. It's very interesting. So I really like that Ernie's thinking here, and I know I said the opposite in the last game, but each situation is different. Because the idea is this: if we go here, then we basically have at least a 75% chance to win the game by drawing one of the 2 remaining road Doritos. But maybe if we go over here, we have an even greater chance of winning the game. Okay, he goes for the normal move. But I think I like the alternative a little bit more, because we would keep our opponents without meeples for a little bit longer, and we would still preserve a chance to complete all the cities. But even if we don't connect this here meeple, it's actually not such a big deal. First of all, there are multiple more Dorito tiles and even some triple city tiles to do that anyway. And if Bluestay gets both of these here tiles remaining, right, then he's not going to place them over here, of course. He's going to use them to connect to the road. Ernie can actually go here to reconnect. And that's the thing. Because we know that our opponent is not going to go over here, then we're in no rush to connect over here. Yeah, Bluestay now somehow has chances despite what I said earlier. Bluestay is 16 ahead on the scoreboard. He drew one of the two critical tiles. He has a 12-point field over here. Ernie's trying to re-attack this here road, which is very nice, but the chances of success are pretty low because we only have one curve and a couple of curvy tiles. Bluestay is now trying to block said road, and he's probably going to succeed. Ernie with a monastery. He could attack for the farm, but he's going to lose it real quick. Ernie's now again in time trouble with 4 minutes remaining. The monastery is not a particularly valuable tile for him. He can try and maybe shape the board to his liking somehow. Or maybe we can even drop a farmer. Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's do it. Let's have some fun. So we go here, drop a farmer, and then we hope that our opponent somehow does not block here. And even if our opponent blocks here, we have two crossroads to bail out from this situation. And then we get two meeples back anyway. But there can be downsides to this. So let's say if our opponent gets the last remaining road Dorito tile and does something like this. Then, with the two crossroads, we can't even split over here. But what we can do with the crossroads is go over here and score 3 points. Well, Bluestay splits anyway. And he chooses to drop a 0-point farmer in advance, which means that Bluestay wants to try and withstand the completion of that big hair city. And Ernie does complete the big city. And look at this. If Ernie were to have dropped this here monastery, he would have loved it so much more. Now he's going to complete the big city. And he might even meeple the 3-point road, which I think he should. And he's still going to have 4 meeples in his hand. Yeah. The city, of course, is going to be huge, but will Bluestay have chances to withstand this? Maybe. He has 24 points on farms at the moment. Bluestay's ahead. He gets himself a second farmer. Ernie's now going to try and attack the farms. Will it be a little bit too late or not? Okay, so Ernie has 7 points ahead on the scoreboard. 3-point the road, that's 10. This here is 18. Bluestay has 30 points on field. So Ernie is minus 12, but he has 2 meeples to play with. And he can take a 6-point farm over here, and he can equalize a 12-point farm over here. And he's going to win plus 6. Or he could go over here for 3 points, then hope to get himself the last crossroads and score over here. And he would also win, because this here sequence, if he gets over here, that's 4 points. If he gets the crossroads, that's 5 more. That's a 9-point sequence. He chooses not to do this. He goes for the farm first. Bluestay with the monastery. He's probably going to go over here for 6 points. Still minus 12 for Ernie. Ernie with a city cap. Now it's time to drop some farmers, probably, if you're committed to a field win rather than a fieldless win. If we go here, that's only 4. That's not enough. But if we go over here, can we even connect? Раз, два, три, четыре. There's still one regular vanilla city cap tile, which means that if we go over here, we have an unblockable path through both routes, like this. But there's only one of such tiles in the deck. No Doritos, no splitters. So Ernie goes for the 50-50. Currently minus 9. Bluestay with a scoring tile. He could get himself the one quick point and try to create some blocking opportunities. He does exactly that. -10 for Ernie. Gets himself a scoring tile. He could get himself -6. Also, by the way, this setup would have totally worked. But he can still get himself 4 points. These are very, very important 4 points. Because if Ernie's going to be only -6, there's some scenarios where he can still might win without connecting to the field. I think we need to score here. And he does exactly that. -6 for Ernie. Bluestay with a tile with not many good uses. He could go over here, try to score 5 points maybe. Or he could go over here and try to block this square. And then if Ernie does not get this tile immediately, then he could try block this here square as well. Bluestay has over 9 minutes to solve this endgame. That should be pretty easy. He is around 6 points ahead at this moment. Ernie has 23 seconds on the clock. And Ernie now should focus absolutely. He should use Bluestay's time for thinking. He should basically anticipate, if Bluestay goes over here, how do I defend? What exactly do I do? But let's say if Bluestay goes over here, he's at +11. If Ernie connects over here, this is only a +10 move. Huh. Can Bluestay outrun the field connection is the question I'm asking. And the answer is maybe. We need to know where the other tiles are. And you know what, guys? I think the answer is yes. There is one important tile remaining, and that is the stawing tile. Because with the stawing tile, Bluestay can finish himself this here city in this here field and get 3 more points. So, let's say we do this. We go to +11. Ernie. Oh, wait, never mind. We both miscounted. There are no vanillas. So how on earth is this red guy planning to connect to the field? What am I not seeing? No Doritos, no monasteries, no curves, no splitters. So there's nothing to connect over here. Oh. Yeah, I got fooled by this. But what if red manages to infiltrate here? And red will be scoring 14 with that. Let me just try and figure that out. I don't think it is quite possible. Oh, no, it is. Wait. Yes, wait. No, it isn't. It isn't. All daggers are gone. Okay, is there a straight line? I think there is one. No, there isn't a straight line. Oh, it's too bad. No crossroads either. Yeah, just Bluestay gets 11 and that's it. Ernie... I'm not sure how much Ernie's going to score, but he's going to score less than 11. He scores 3, and hey, he's going to get himself... now, a final little test for Bluestay. We don't get tempted by 1 point over here. Instead, we have to go over here and break our opponent's city scoring opportunity with the last starting tile. I have no doubt that with 5 minutes on the clock, Bluestate has the power to complete that calculation. Oh yes, and Bluestate found this very, very nice endgame counting from Zvonimir. Saves him 3 points of spread. And I think +5 should be the victory for Ernie or something like that. Okay, +6, so close enough. Yeah, incredibly, incredibly interesting game. Unfortunately, really big heartbreak for Hong Kong. Ernie had chances in all 3 games, got himself into time trouble in all 3 games, and Bluestate managing to withstand this here huge city. So this is how compensation works. So many, many important moves. First of all, Bluestate dropping a farmer over here. That's a big, big deal. Not allowing Ernie to take this here field. Then managing to get the first on this field. And even though Ernie had like all the meeples in the world, just the remaining tiles in the deck were so clunky that he couldn't do anything with them. But there were some things. So if Ernie... With this here monastery, honestly, Ernie could have gone over here and just won. It's a very difficult decision to pull the trigger on, but it would have worked because he would have taken the field away from his opponent, and like it can work very, very well. But there was another super interesting moment that I want to highlight. This here move, the most natural move in the world, the move which came to my mind first, but actually at that time, if only Ernie were to find the delay, if only he would have gone over here, prevents Bluestate from getting a meeple back, then I think he would have won this game pretty easily. And it also seems to me that preventing your opponent from recovering a meeple at that stage was more important than even trying to completing that city, because Bluestate got so much. So first of all, he got himself 6 extra points instantly by just completing the city. 9 extra points because this will also add it to this here guy. And then he got a couple of quick points as well, so I think he was the one who scored here. So that's what? That's like 13. Then he also dropped the farmers. That's like 19 points. 19 points is what Bluestate extracted from that meeple, which really is pretty much the same as what you get from doubling the points from completing that city, if you feel me. Because let's say if Ernie were to get something like a cow tile and go over here and have his city blocked, he would still enjoy this nice ruin at the very least. And Bluestate would probably not have an extra meeple from his monastery. So there were all kinds of good things available. But again, not an easy decision to make, to spend such a beautiful shielded tile which you need in one place in order to just to prevent your opponent from getting a meeple back. But this goes to show you, like, I think no real blunders have been made. Like, Ernie overall played really well. But at this level in Carcassonne, making reasonable moves is good enough. You have to find the best, the single best, and coming close, but unfortunately not quite managing to deliver the upset here. Anyway, we congratulate Blue Stiff for making it to the second stage of the international qualifiers. Ernie gets relegated to the loser bracket. Still can manage to make it, but it's going to be an uphill climb. Look at how many games in a row Ernie has to win. Anyway, we have our second match underway. And also later, I think we need to talk about the qualifiers a little bit more. Anyway, so let's just do this. So Thomas Rojas is now predictably one game ahead against Mauricio Saavedra. Now, Thomas is a master, Mauri is an expert. And let's see how these two are getting along. They're just starting their second game. Mauri is the starting player with the red meeples. Thomas with yellow meeples, of course, to highlight the most prominent color on the Colombian flag. All right, what do we have here? Overall, a fantastic position from Mauricio. Because look at this, 4 points on the scoreboard. Starting player advantage to have himself better endgame chances. Some small cities which could turn into something. And a 5-point monastery to match this 5-point road of TR. Yellow now with actually really tricky tile to play. Yeah, and this also, look at this. This 1-point meeple, this is the type of move which I love playing at some points. And some other top players, Otto, like to criticize that move, and I can understand why. But sometimes this move basically prevents T. Rojas from starting the city in an optimal position. If not for this red meeple, then yellow would have gone over here and started a new city risk-free, whilst also damaging 2 of the monasteries here squares. So this here meeple, regardless of what happens to it in the future, has already accomplished something. Mauri gets himself the first farmer while developing his city, and T. Rojas gets himself out of this here dangerous situation, but he now has another slightly precariously placed here meeple. And Mauri could actually go right now and try and pressure it, but of course he's going to finish his city first. Not dropping a second farmer just yet. Would not be wrong necessarily, but I like the patience in this instance. Hi Megamenche. Hi Bluster. Congrats for the win. Yeah, we can see, okay, now we can see Mauricio making the first mistake of the game. This move is, of course, normally good. No, actually, no, it's bad. So basically, the idea of trying to create a blocking square against this here guy is a good idea. But this is about the worst tile possible that can do that, because well, it ends up working for him, but whatevs. Basically, what happens very often in this here situation is that Thomas gets a Dorito and then a sausage and then continues the city like this. Mauri did end up getting a tile to block this here meeple, but Thomas says right back at you and now blocks his meeple in return. And most importantly for Mauricio, like you gotta think about, like, it's not super urgent for you to block this here square anyway. If only red were to have played a simple move, finishing this here city on the left, developing his farm, starting a new one, then red can absolutely withstand both of these cities getting completed. But now the game is headed into a completely different direction. T. Rojas now is getting his city invaded. This is going to be equal. Red now gets controlled by this here Monash meeple in 2 spots. Maori is now trying to break this here road a little bit. Ooh, rough situation here, as his meeple is going to get permanently blocked. I said it's blocked, but it's only restricted to a 50-50. Still 1 tile that's fit into the square, but not for long. There are plenty of blocking options available, and no defense option is available for that square. Maori now, however, does have a 12-point advantage on the scoreboard, and this 9-point field with the beautiful green squares for further development. Overall, still a very good position for red. Yellow starts a new city in a very smart way, away from red's fields. But however, there are some issues with it. I think as yellow would have preferred a city over here, perhaps. Yeah, yellow, that's a miss from yellow, yellow, that's a miss. The better move was to start a new city over here, perhaps, trying to create vulnerabilities against the monastery. And also, one issue that I have is the sensitivity of this here square. Let's say Thomas gets the best tile possible, he gets a city cap immediately and finishes this here city. But then Maori gets something like a Dorito, goes over here and blocks the square. And what's with the square? And oh, this is where this yellow's road is going. So actually this here move endangers one of these here 2 meeples, because let's say that T. Rojas gets a tile here first, he gets himself some sort of crossroads. Well, then Maori gets himself a road Dorito, does like this, and then blocks this here square, and consequently this here meeple. So these here 2 meeples, they actually don't make it out alive very often. In the meantime, red has kind of equalized the road of yellow, building up his monastery. Yellow, of course, now has to go over here and try to break that road. Yeah, this is also an option. This is a nice move, trying to block this here square. But oh, what a move from Maori. Bam! Oh, that's so nice. Did you see that? Okay, so the idea is this. This square is almost permanently blocked. And then, if Maori gets a crossroads, he's going to save this here meeple for 4 points and leave this here meeple stranded. Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, speaking of stranded meeples, there's a lot of that going on in other parts of the board. And Maori just keeps scoring. Thomas does have the advantage in meeples, but not for long. But this is a lovely move. Blocking this here square. Well, almost blocking. It's a Sophie's Choice block, actually, because the starting tile is needed in 2 places. So there is no point in trying to save this. But Mauricio can make some interesting moves now. If he wants, he can go over here and start a... No, don't do that. But if he wants, he can go over here and protect the square toward a 75%er, but it is not worth it. I think it is not worth it. It was much better to do something like this, no? Okay, whatever. Respectable decision. We protect the square. We have now a 75% chance of completing the plan that I was talking about, that we finish this here road, and we leave our opponent's road stranded. So that is kind of nice. Maori now tries to block this here road further. This here city is blocked. T. Rojas trying to invade the field of Maori. Maori is now going to try to block here, or maybe just ignore everything and start a new city, which is also an option. Or maybe, no. How about we go here? We'll leave some features up for grabs, and we try and play against this here square. Because maybe this guy could get stranded here for 3 points. Some interesting decisions. I'm not going to make further suggestions. I'm just going to see what Mauricio is going to do here. And he does this. He finds the move. Awesome. Lovely. Does not work. Still is a respectable decision. But actually, check this out. Thomas now needs this tile in 2 places. He needs it here because this meeple could get blocked. And he needs it here because this meeple could also get blocked. So this is the main nicety of that move, because it preserves the threats of both sides. And actually, if I'm Thomas here, I probably want to save this here rightmost meeple first, because losing that would be tragic. Losing this would be unpleasant, but not tragic, because we still have, at the very least, a secondary farm worth 3 points and one green square to save it and start building some cities and maybe turn it into a 9-point field a little bit later. So yellow now needs to make his Sophie's choice. And Sophie says, I want to save the road. And Sophie's correct. She gets herself 7 points in a meeple back. Maori gets 8 points in a meeple back and some more chances to block that square. But will you look at that? The Road Monastery, the best possible tile for Thomas here. And I genuinely don't know where to use it, though. I guess we could go over here, unify the fields and take the 7 points. But then if we do that, Maori has the meeple majority and he's going to like overtake the bigger field even still. Or we could go over here. We could go for 8 points and we could expand our bottom farm. But then with a curve, our opponent could block this here meeple. But what if? What if we go here, and it just so happens that our opponent does not have a curve in hand? There are only 4 curves, and let's say our opponent has a city tile, and there are many city tiles. There are like 3 Doritos, 3 regular Doritos with which he cannot do nothing. And then we get ourselves another monastery, and we get 8 more points. Because this setup has such great potential for caching. I would be tempted to try that out. But then also, if we don't go here right now, then our farmer probably gets here stranded. Now, this is an interesting dilemma. I'm so curious what the Colombian master is going to come up with. Let me know in the chat, where do you place this monastery? I genuinely don't know. I think I probably go over here for 7 points and I try to write it out. Because I guess even if our opponents reinvades the field, I complete this monastery to rather high frequency. Like I can get a curve, I can get another monastery, and so on. And then I can try to catch up on the scoreboard a little bit. It's tough. It's really, really tough. Oh, this is tempting stuff. It's an 11-point move with a chance to get a meeple back. And if you get a meeple back, you get it back with a vengeance. Oh, but you know what? I'm changing my mind now. There's some further issues. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 vanilla city caps. And if we go over here, our opponent has additional blocking opportunities. So let's say if our opponent gets one of the 2 horses, he could go over here, score 2 points, and limit this here square to a non-existing vanilla city cap tile. On the other hand, these are only 2 extra blocking tiles. So what do we care? Only 2 extra blocking tiles. It ain't no big deal. Maybe we go for it. Maybe we go for it. It's a tough choice. I'm very happy I'm not the one who has to make it. I think maybe this is like the least content-y move. Oh, but you know what? If we go here, there's also the downside. If our opponent gets the last crossroads, then he's going to go over here and not only get a meeple back, but also score 3 points for a road. That's also not ideal. We can factor that into our calculations. I'm just so happy I'm not the one who has to make this decision. There's also another option of going over here for 6 points instead, with a road placing over here, then trying to go for a road and complete the monastery like this. For a variety of reasons, this would be a very bad move, but I can see how this could be tempting. Helge is saying we could drop a second farmer over here, connecting them with a straight. Yeah, I was considering this idea. The problem is that, first of all, we don't get the monastery points, and second, Maori just goes over here with any tile and equalizes us. But, oh lordy, I can't. And Thomas decides to just do nothing with the single best possible tile in the... I can't, guys. This is not how you win the game of Carcassonne. So you draw the single most impactful tile in existence. Oh no, Thomas, what you doing? Like, okay, so think about if you're the player with the yellow meeples. You're afraid to meeple an 8-point monastery because it might get blocked. But you're not afraid to meeple a 3-point field because it definitely is going to get blocked. And Maori is now actually making a mistake. He should not be completing his here city. It was a 0-point move from Maori, and he just gave a meeple back to the side with the meeple disadvantage. Yeah, both sides are making so many mistakes here, especially yellow. Because, like, this move from Maori I can at least understand. Because, you know, it's a dagger tile. It looks like it kind of neatly fits into that square. But, like, why do you make a 0-point move and give your opponent a meeple back when you can make a 1-point move by cleaning off the city cap and not giving your opponent a meeple back? And suddenly, like, this position becomes playable for yellow. Yellow has a 6-point farmer here. Yellow has a 6-point farmer here. Yellow has a 3-point farmer here, and that's going to sting. But the position is relatively closed, and maybe yellow can use one of his farms to develop it into something in the future. Another issue what I have with this here move is not so much the premature use of the farmer. It's also because there was a much better move available. If we were to go over here, we would have been able to develop this here 6-point field into a 9-point field by bringing this here square and this here castle into it, and also having ourselves another city cap to score with, potentially. If Maori chooses to finish his city and score for the cap here, it's like whatever. Yeah, Thomas starts a 4-point road, which makes sense. Maori, Theo, of course, is going to go over here. And maybe even drop a farmer actually like this to connect through the crossroads if Tirojas gets himself one. Yeah, this game is now interesting whilst it's... but not in the way that I imagined. Ooh, oh. And Maori drops a farmer, which is... It looks like a good move, but it isn't. The main issue, well, first of all, the main issue is that whenever yellow completes this here road, it's going to restrict this connection square. But then even if you connect, it's not necessarily what you want because it creates kind of a biggish field over here where yellow has a majority and yellow can develop this field even further. On the other hand, Maori has meeples, he can afford stuff like this. But yeah, anyway, like if you're gonna drop a farmer, like if you want to connect, why don't you just go over here? If you connect through your opponent's road, it's pretty much the same thing. Except that you don't need to spend extra tiles on doing so, and it's 100% chance of connection instead of a less than 100 chance of connection. Anyway, Maori's still 2 points ahead. He enjoys this here 8-point monastery. Now another 5-point monastery at the top, which can be developed quite nicely, and Thomas with a huge 7-point move with a city cap over here. Yeah, Maori could in theory lose this. But it's nice for him to score these 2 points and leave an empty city cap in his field. And the field is not very easy to be attacked. However, a great tile for Mr. Rojas Henao as well. We can go here, score 2 points, leave a city cap which cannot be scored because there's simply no vanillas and no sausage splitters. But if we get another straight line, we get to expand the field a little bit. And there's still one straight line available in the deck. So we could do that. Or we could just score 2 points like this. Use the city cap for the outside. And then try to maybe later restrict this here square. Because I believe... Actually, no, I'm wrong. But I was going to say that there's still city caps that fit into this square, but no, they aren't. The city caps are an extremely short supply. We have a dagger and a starting tile, and one rose, and that's about it. Whoa! Why would you do why would you do that? Like, why would you lose the? I can't watch this, guys. Like, why? Like, it's such an easy blockable meeple. Okay, you want to drop a city cap in your field? Just leave it without a meeple, man. I can't. I'm not sure. Maybe I shouldn't be too critical. Maybe yellow was nervous or whatever. Yellow is also in time trouble, which I can also understand why it can be some issues. Fortunately for yellow, they get himself a scoring tile, the starting tile for 5 points. They're still technically ahead on the scoreboard, actually, and they have more on field. The 2 monasteries of Maori are going to be a little bit too much to surmount. Maori can now either get himself 1 monastery point or go straight away for a 7-point ruin. And with so few tiles remaining, I think I like the 7-point ruin here. Because, like, there are no crossroads. Well, actually, there is a crossroads, but... Oh, no, there's no crossroads, right? There's no crossroads. There are no city caps for scoring anymore. There are actually no daggers remaining. Yeah, there are no city caps at all in the deck. So the 7-point ruin is what is occurring. T. Rojas gets a curvy tile, which is pretty good. Because we can, with the curvy tile, we can go over here and maybe we can hope for another curvy tile, except the fact that it does not exist. Yeah, I was thinking we could go over here and try to prolong this row, but unfortunately it just does not work. We could go here and try to set up a straight line to expand our field a little bit. Oh yeah, but also T. Rojas loses on time anyway. So all Maori needs to do is just to claim his win. Or maybe it is Thomas who's going to acknowledge his defeat. He's trying to say something in the chat, but then he thinks better of it. Yeah, sad ending for Thomas, but it is not sad for us because, again, this means that we get to see another decider. Okay, so this is what the players are agreeing. So T. Rojas acknowledges his defeat on time, but he's asking to finish the game just for the fun of it, and that is what we're going to do. I like this approach in generally, and also it would suck to not see the ending. T. Rojas now with a lovely 9-point move, actually, which could have been prevented by Maori, but whatever. I think Maori's gonna win regardless, just because he has a monastery extra and a giant ruin and all these good things. He does not have many fields, though. That is a bit of an issue. It's gonna be pretty close. It's gonna be pretty close. But also, we know that if not for the time thing, then Maori would have thought, and with this here move, he could have gone one to the left and not allowed for this monastery to be scored. Yeah, looks like it's going to be something like a 1-point win. For Maori? Or maybe not. Yeah, 1-point win, 1-point win. Okay, so we know that Red had this basically under control. Well, there were some teeny tiny chances towards the end how Tomas could have managed to score some quick points and get the monasteries anyway, but then Maori would have gotten some other tiles that give him some good things. Anyway, congratulations for the Chilean. Yeah, and also we can see here like what time trouble can just do to people. So maybe I've been a little bit too critical of some of Tomas's decisions, whereas they can simply be explained by time trouble. And now the Colombian master has all the chances in the world. It's a very good position for starters. So first of all, he is the player with the starting player token. This is going to be helpful in the end game. He now has a 4-point lead on the scoreboard after completing this here little city. He placed himself the first monastery on the board to control the space. And these here meeples, look at this nice symmetry. Well, nice if you're Chilean, not so nice if you're... No. Okay, it's okay, but nah. Okay, it's fine. It's a decent move. It's a decent move. No, actually, I shouldn't be... Nah. Okay, so still a good position for yellow. I was just saying how vulnerable these meeples are. This move is decent, but because there were still starting tiles in the deck, I would have preferred, from Tiros's perspective, to go here first and score points. How did Maori get out of this? Of course, these are some very fortunate draws. And suddenly, Tiro has his 11 points down on the scoreboard, and he has 2 exceptionally vulnerable meeples. Not exceptional, but like kind of vulnerable. There are still 3 tiles that fit into this square. I mean, the assessment of the position in Carcassonne can change so quickly. Hi, Thomas. Alrighty. So what is Mauricio gonna do here? Start a second field? Oh, this is exciting. Now we're going... this must be some Brazilian influence right there. Although I have to say, I don't necessarily disagree with that move. I mean, there's really not a lot of extra things that could have been played. Although, there is... What about if we start this farmer not like this, but instead like that? It is a little bit unusual, but the idea is, if we leave a city cap in this here area, then eventually somebody's going to go over here and meeple the city cap, and then we're going to have a platform to permanently block this square. So both players are now exchanging quick points and whatnot, although probably T. Rojas should not do this right now, but he chooses to do so nonetheless. I mean, cleaning off a city cap is cleaning off a city cap regardless. Yeah, I can totally understand that. Maori now can go... Actually, there's a fun idea. We can go over here, score 2 points, and then try to build and create an attacking platform from here, of all places. That could work very well. No, yeah. Yeah, not like that. It creates easy defense stalls, but yeah, I can't. Oh, both players, like, so first of all, this is like, okay, okay, this move, kind of okay. The issue that I have with that, even though it ended up somehow working, it gives back a potential ring road for this here square, and it's not great. Another way is maybe it's a bit too early to double down on this here farm at the top because it could be cut short, but okay, that's okay. But then, from yellow's perspective, I would call this reckless endangerment. I don't see why we don't go over here and at least try to save this square. But some interesting decisions, let's say. Maori now gets a fantastic tile, and I believe we're now witnessing a comeback waiting to happen. Just an amazing position here for red. 8 points ahead on the scoreboard. These here farmers score 18 points already. Yellow has 2 blocked meeples for just 10. Yellow has a lot of roads which need to figure out what they are doing with their life. And uphill climb here for the Colombian. It is not impossible, actually. I like what yellow is doing, like going here aggressively for the 5-point road. Probably if I'm yellow, I'm just going over here. Like, I don't care. I want to have myself a 75% chance of completing the city. I need to risk hard. Do it. I know it's a little bit risky, but yes! Yes! Nice. Very nice find here by T. Rojas. He could get blocked, but it's still worth of the effort. Will he get blocked or not? Maori setting up the blocking platform, and T. Rojas does not get a defense tile. However, we could go over here and reduce the blocking chances somewhat, and he does exactly this. Will he get blocked or not? And he does not get blocked. And look at this defense move has absolutely worked because Maori now cannot go over here in this square. So the hopes for this meeple and for the game and for the championship for yellow are still alive. Maori now develops his field. T. Rojas now get a straight line which can be used to continue his road. Maori now with a scoring tile again cannot go over here and block this meeple. Probably need to settle for some 2 quick points over here or over here or over here, or maybe even just 3 quick points over here, which is not terrible, honestly. Or maybe no. How about we go here? No. I mean, the moves are fine, but I would really love to go over here and block. This would have been so awesome. Check this out. This would have been like a triple Sophie's Choice block. Basically, what am I pressing? Basically, forcing 3 guys of yellow to draw crossroads. The move is still perfectly fine because it's like pre-built a city in his field, which can be later be used, and it also messes with this road meeple long term. T. Rojas now is continuing his city, not in the way I would have preferred it. I would have preferred a move like this, protecting the road a little bit more indirectly, but whatevs. Maori with a 4-point monastery, and T. Rojas gets himself a meeple back, which could have been prevented by red, but whatevs. Red now only 5 points behind. Maori again cannot use this here tile for blocking, and T. Rojas has himself an opportunity to win this game still. Split a tile for Maori and not many opportunities to expand his field, and this is why I was a bit skeptical about doubling down here a little bit too early, because there are not enough green squares to drop a farmer. But there's now a very lovely opportunity to start a new city over here, perhaps, because if red finishes his city, then all these 2 cities at the top are going to be part of our newly recovered field. Well, finally, this here square is getting blocked, but so is this here square potentially. Thomas now is building up over here. I'm pretty sure that Maori is going to go here and try to prevent this guy from finishing the city anytime soon. But Thomas scores quick points on the left. Only 1 point down on the scoreboard. Mauricio, with the curve, has two options. Options one, we go over here and we try to kill this meeple completely. Actually, no, I don't like that metaphor at all. We try to block that meeple completely. Or we can go over here and we try to play a high variance game with the idea that maybe we get to finish our city and we get to score points for this here road. Instead, Maori chooses to block the road meeple. Thomas chooses to block the city meeple. Both tiles, both sides are trying to just destroy each other. Don't you love that? So vicious. Mauricio gets a tile with which he cannot do nothing except obstruct his opponent further. Might be something like this. Still leaving two tiles that fit into this square, but most importantly, that would eliminate these here moves. Okay, whatever. T-Rojas gets himself a little bit of a break. He wants to block this here square permanently. He does not bother defending. Ah, look at this. Maori gets himself to complete, to continue the city, but leaves himself fewer options to complete this in full. No starting... Wait. No starting tiles remaining. And no rose tiles remaining. So the only options to complete this here city are daggers. With one significant difference. Two daggers that fit into this square. And only one dagger that fits into this square. Now, 0 things that fit here. Originally, of course, 6 tiles in the deck, but all 6 of them on the board. Maori is now scoring quick points whilst also developing his monastery. Yeah, there was a chance, actually. Thomas could have gone over here with a straight line and blocked that opportunity. Thomas gets 2 quick points. And Mauricio gonna get 1 monastery point, I presume. However, it is somewhat dangerous. If we go here and get a monastery point, then suddenly yellow can get a Dorito, go over here, get an extender and go over here and develop himself a very big ruin at our expense. I'm still gonna do it probably. And I might even consider placing a meeple on it, because like, what does it matter? Because we don't really need a meeple for anything else. We have a meeple for quick points. The city caps we can use for field developments. Roads we can use for blocking. There is still a monastery to be meepled potentially, but there's only one roadless monastery, that is. For a road monastery, we can still extract value but by scoring 2 quick points for the road, right? You know what? I think this is the moment where you place your last meeple on a 4-point feature with 12 tiles remaining. But this move is so unorthodox that I don't expect him to play that. But honestly, I think this is the move. I think this is how we win this game, and he does this without the meeple, and that is why with the Dorito tile, Thomas now is going to connect his 5-point ruin with this 4 points juicy. He chooses not to do that for reasons inexplicable to me. This allows Maori some nice options. If I'm Maori, I go over here for 6 points. I don't care that I can get blocked, but this ruin is so good. Like, you're not going to do much better than 6 points with just 1 meeple. And of course, you're going to get blocked, which is okay. It's okay. So the outcome is almost the same. Mauri's gonna score points for road without giving much back. +6 for red. And Thomas gets his dagger. He's going to get himself 8 points on the scoreboard. And Meeple back. And now he can fight for the field at the bottom. Mauri now probably is going to score some quick points for the road. Or a 6 point for the monastery. I don't know which one he's going to choose. And this is going to allow Thomas to do one of two things. Option 1. We draw crossroads. But we strike that option because a crossroads no longer exists in the deck. So we go for option 2. We drop a farmer over here. And we connect through a dagger to a 12-point field like this. The Colombian still has chances. Being down 21 points on the field is not great. But the chances are absolutely real. All we need to do is we need to draw the dagger in the right kind of order. So first of all, we need to draw this here dagger that red needs to complete his city. And we can use the same dagger to go over here and drop a farmer. And then we can use the other dagger to connect over here. Or a simple curve would also work with the same idea. So let's see what Mauricio chooses to do. I think there's no shame in just taking points. But there are 3 ways of doing this. So first of all, option 1 is we take 2 quick points for a road. Yeah, option 2 is we go for that straight away. And T. Rojas gets himself the dagger, which is a hugely important tile. Now he has to find the one and only field connection that goes over here. This here Meeple is never going to see the light of day. In fact, no Meeple is ever going to get recovered from King Mauri's hands, even if he manages to successfully develop the monastery. So he now has to go over here, now has to drop a farmer, he now has to get a curve to connect to the field. It will, of course, be an uphill climb, but almost certainly blocked at the bottom, not at the top. Yes, he finds it. Brilliant recognition here. Because it's just so much better to go here than to go here. Do you get this? And it's precisely because of the dagger tile. Now, Mauri cannot use this here dagger tile to block this entrance. This is brilliant spatial vision from T. Rojas. But he does not get a curve. He's so likely to get blocked on the next move. But he needs to keep trying. He needs to do something. Do we go here for the 5-point monastery? Maybe. We don't really have anything better. I think we have to go for the 5-point monastery, and then we have to hope that our opponent does not get a curve somehow, even though there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 curves remaining in the deck. Ideally, of course, we want to drop another farmer somewhere, but we can't because we don't have time for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's still 1 straight line remaining. And then ideally, what we would have hoped is that maybe we could have dropped a farmer over here and used both curves for a connection, but this is not going to happen. We get a 5-point monastery, and does King Mauri gets himself a connection, blocking tile or not. I mean, we still have to go over here, right? This is just as much as you're gonna score. You're not gonna have more than 5 points. King Mauri gets a straight line. Okay. T. Rojas does get to connect. Mauri gets himself the shielded tile. I think that T. Rojas is still going to lose. But not by much. Both players exchange 2-point moves. King Mauri continues his side of the ruin, and T. Rojas now is going to get himself 2 points for the road. Yeah, that little road was kind of one of the roots of the problems of Yellow's position so early on. Just like too many meeples were blocked too early on. This guy was a very nice attempt, didn't end up working, but was still absolutely worth doing. But yeah, tricky. And you know what? Like, regarding this move, remember my first reaction about this was very critical, even though it's not necessarily a bad move. But it's often something that happens. Like, if you have too many roads in that sort of position where you are running out of crossroads a bit quicker, then you end up with stuff like this, and all of that felt avoidable. But let's see what the score difference is. An exciting endgame nonetheless. And still chances for Yellow until the end. But Yellow, I think, is going to lose by a little bit. Oh, wow. Make this little bit 0 points. Yellow loses by a tie. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh, this is so beautiful. But you know what? This means King Mauri won the coin flip for the game. This here tile. It's all about this here tile. Do you realize that? Because he was able to score 2 points extra, and so was Yellow. If the tiles were reversed, then Red, with the curve, would have scored 0 points extra, and with this here tile, Thomas would have gotten himself 1 extra point for the monastery. So Thomas would have won by 1 point. Which also brings us to this sequence, that actually this here move was a mistake. Because Mauri needed to leave himself more room for road tiles. What he actually needed to do, he needed to, with this here tile, to not develop the monastery like this, but instead develop the monastery like this, develop the city instead. So that he would have still had these here 2 squares for city tiles, and these here 2 squares for road tiles. Of course, quite difficult to see, especially when you have 3 minutes on the clock, but this is what would have prevented that coin flip situation. Fascinating stuff. Glad that we ended up watching that decider. Lots of back and forth, lots of very unorthodox decisions by both sides. And well, that is precisely why they're here. Absolutely lovely farm right here by T. Rojas at the bottom, but just slightly not enough. So the Colombian Master is relegated to the losers bracket. Mauricio Saavedra gets rehabilitation from his 2 losses in the finals of the Chilean National Online Championships, and now they will move on to meet who? Let's find out that in a second. So some other results in the Battle of Argentinians, also in Q3. Big Nacho defeated Leonel Munoz. And MTU, one of the 3 Polish stars, defeated probably the 2nd best player in Thailand with the screen name Edinidad. So we're going to have more relegations to the losers brackets. I still haven't decided if I'm going to stream the evening matches. Honestly, my voice is now kind of a little bit tired. I'm going to have an hour break and see if I can handle. So if there is going to stream, there's going to be an announcement on a short notice. And if you're going to get that announcement, then make sure to subscribe for more competitive content like this. And of course, maybe the like button for the algorithm, which we're not leaving just yet because I want to just have a really quick look at those last results. So, Q3. Blue Stay Big Nacho is their first round 2 encounter. Kithra of Japan, who's probably... Kithra is like one of the main favorites of this group, regardless. Actually, I'm gonna say the main favorite. Actually, I'm just gonna assume that Kithra is gonna win against everybody. It's like the difference is in level is just so great. What else are we having? Oh, Kithra MTU. That's gonna be such an interesting duel. I'm gonna definitely cover that. And what happens to King Maori? Maori is going to be playing against either Poland's Preachy or Mexico's Vapula. And I think Maori is going to be the favorite against either one. But a close one. A close favorite. And in the losers brackets... Well, we don't know exactly where Tomas Rojas is going, but I think somewhere here. So not against Vladimir Chendev. Vladimir Chendev, I think, is going to be playing against Idinidad, which is also be quite interesting, but Vladimir being a slight favorite. Anyway, that should be enough now. Let me just get my breath back. And see you either in 2 hours or at a later date. You will find out soon enough. Thank you so much. You see, I'm so tired I cannot utter rather simple sentences. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.